Syracuse may be an underrated opponent for Tennessee to play. Are you hot or cold on that contention, Caleb, that Syracuse is a pretty good non-conference opponent and maybe one that's better than they want to have on the schedule, especially in the opening game?
I am hot on Syracuse actually being a better than predicted non-conference opponent. And I'm hot on them for a few reasons, by the way. Not the least of which is Tennessee is now breaking in a new quarterback they didn't think they had to break in. I mean, that counts for something, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
And so that's one. Now, let's be fair on this. Syracuse is bringing in a new quarterback too because they lost Kyle McCord, which is fine, but Syracuse did something that is not very common nowadays, Dave, which is that their new starting quarterback, Ricky Collins, who transferred from LSU, by the way, very highly touted recruit and could be really good dual threat quarterback. They named him the starter in spring camp and spring practice. They have gone all in with Ricky Collins, so he has taken every first team rep since the start of spring ball. There's no competition. I don't know how you feel about that. I think that might be smart though. If you think you got the best player, don't you go ahead? Why not go ahead and name him the starter? And
let me ask you this question. Ask you if you're hot or cold on it. Brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Is it a major red flag or not if Tennessee loses to Syracuse? Again, it's hot or cold. Brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. CityHeatingAir.com.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
I'm hot. If Tennessee, under a head coach heading into year 5, with the talent advantage they have over Syracuse, can't beat Syracuse because they have an overall significant talent advantage, I'm hot that Josh Heupel's not the guy, because I don't care about the quarterback position. You should be better at most every position. Tennessee in 98 had an issue at quarterback. They had a new guy there that they didn't trust. I've talked to the coaches about that. Yet what did they do? They went out and beat Syracuse because they were more talented. If Tennessee doesn't beat Syracuse, I don't really care about the quarterback issue. We might make excuses for Tennessee with Joey Aguilar and not Nico in a year number 2 starter role against Florida, Alabama. I could go on, Georgia. But no, I'm not making that excuse at all for Tennessee and Josh Heupel. If they can't beat Syracuse going into year 5, they haven't done a good enough job of recruiting, period. End of discussion. Hot or cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. What do you got?
So you would fire Heupel right off the bat if they lost to Syracuse? You would just be like, I'm done. Would you really do that?
I wouldn't.
Would you fire him the next week?
But it's in the back of my mind unless he salvages this thing. Now, there are all kinds of situations. Joey Aguilar could get hurt, and then Jake Merklinger could get hurt. You're down to George McIntyre. I mean, that could happen. So, yeah, there are things that could happen. But if this is just a straight up loss, how are you not hot on that? I mean, you got to beat Syracuse. My goodness.
Okay, but look, in general, I theoretically agree with you. But Dave, there is a chance that Tennessee is in a similar situation to the 98 team. And just to point this out, what I mean by that is they faced a Syracuse team that they did not know how good they were. I mean, how many times did Fred White tell us they were completely shocked by how good Syracuse was in that game?
I mean, you had Donovan McNabb, and
they knew they had a good quarterback, but they didn't think that Syracuse could hang with them toe to toe for 4 quarters. And
that offense was so limited. That was the reason. If Tennessee goes out there and they can't beat Syracuse, and I mean handily by 10 points. Now, Sam says we have way more talent this year too than Syracuse. They better.
Well, wait. Okay, let me ask
you. Got a problem?
What's a bigger talent gap? This year's Tennessee team versus this year's Syracuse team, or the 98 Tennessee team versus the 98 Syracuse team?
Well, I think it's going to be the 98 team, but it should be almost as significant this year.
But yes. So you said it should be almost as significant this year. The 98 team beat Syracuse by 1 point. They beat them by 1. They barely beat them. And so that game, If Tennessee had lost to Syracuse in 98, do you think Philip Fulmer would have been fired or on the hot seat?
No, because you're replacing Peyton Manning. But they're not replacing Peyton Manning.
Do they not? Okay, but they're getting somewhat of a mulligan for the Nico Iamaleava situation.
Why?
And, well, why didn't Fulmer win a national title with Peyton Manning before
I'll give them a mulligan against Georgia, Florida, or Alabama. Maybe not even Florida, but a mulligan against Syracuse?
They lost to Arkansas last year. Upset losses happen. Peyton Manning lost to Memphis. And so I'm trying to say, it's not, look, I think Tennessee could beat Syracuse. I mean, I think Tennessee will beat Syracuse. Tennessee could beat them handily. But are we supposed to sit there and say that this has to be that this is a 100% circled win like Chattanooga or Kent State? I mean, this is
not 100%, but close.
This is a much better team than NC State was last year. And by the way, I'll give you another comparison. Let's go more recent. Forget the 98 team for a minute. The 2022 Tennessee Pitt game. Now, Tennessee was the better team, but they needed overtime to win that game, remember?
Yep.
And you don't think that Syracuse game could be like that? Syracuse won 10 games last year. They finished in the top 25. They beat Miami, knocked them out of the college football playoff. They got a head coach in Fran Brown, who I think is one of the bright rising stars in coaching. And y'all know I'm not the biggest fan of coaches in general, but I am a fan of Fran Brown. Okay, he was the defensive backs coach at Georgia for a while. So this guy knows ball. I think Syracuse has a really good chance of being a very good football team. And I'm going to sit there and say that I don't think they're going to beat Tennessee. Tennessee should win handily, but I am saying that it's crazy to think that there's no chance that Syracuse can make this a game or give them a big scare. Pitt gave them a big scare 3 years ago. Syracuse in 98 gave them a big scare. And again,
let me put it this way. When's Tennessee's off week? You have the schedule pulled up?
I'll pull it up now.
So if you're Tennessee athletic director Danny White, he likes to be called vice chancellor as well, so we'll do that. General Ursa is saying, didn't Syracuse win 10 games last year? Yes, they did. I know it's the ACC, but yes, it is. So there you go. But if you're Danny White, Tennessee's athletic director, and you go into an off week and you're either going to games, I don't know what you're doing in an off week. Maybe you're just sitting on your couch. Are you scouting teams to see who you might play for a national championship? Or are you looking at other coaches to see who you might make a run at if you need to make a change? It's the latter.
Well, Danny White, should be doing that because Danny White is the athletic director and his job is to always have somebody that he can scout and always be ready in case that happens. He should be doing that anyway, just in case Josh Heupel leaves, like per our old comment. But let me ask you this. So Tennessee Syracuse is kind of relegated to, like, I guess you could say, the lesser big game at noon that day, because the game that everybody's going to be paying attention to, as I'm sure you know, is going to be Texas Ohio State. I think is at noon also. Is it week 2 when Texas plays Ohio State, or week 1? I believe it's actually it's got to be week 1. But either way, yeah, I think Texas Ohio State's at noon on that Saturday, and Tennessee Syracuse is at noon as well. I'll say something a little crazy. I bet the margin between Tennessee and Syracuse is smaller than the margin between Texas and Ohio State.
No chance. If that's the case, then.
And the reason I say that, let me be clear, it's because I think Ohio State might beat Texas by 28.
Okay, I want to be real clear. Here's what Steve says. I bet my Harley that UT beats Syracuse. I do too. So I think we're talking in hypotheticals here. That's what June's about. But let me share a number with you. 42. And no, I'm not talking about Ronnie Lott. I'm talking about that's where Syracuse was ranked in recruiting last year. Now, I know last year's recruiting class isn't on the field this year largely. They're freshmen. I get that. But that gives you an idea. Tennessee was ranked considerably higher. They're pushing the top 10. They were number 11. So I think there's a red flag about Josh Heupel if they lose to Syracuse. And I think there's also a red flag that just maybe he's using the Butch Jones approach and trying to manipulate recruiting ranking.
You think Josh Heupel's using the Butch Jones approach and manipulating recruiting?
I don't think that's the case unless they lose to Syracuse. I think this would be a major loss. I can't believe you don't. I mean, this is an SEC team.
Well, yeah, it would. Okay, all right. Yes, but I'm saying upsets can happen, and I don't think you throw the baby out with the bathwater during that time. Yes, it would be a major loss, and there would be some red flags everywhere. I do think, like Georgia, you said earlier they get a mulligan with Georgia. Georgia's not a mulligan. That's not like you dropped. No, if you lose to Georgia, you lost to a better team.
Oh, I agree.
So,
no, I agree. I didn't mean. I mean, actually was thinking in my head if they were to get blown out. If they were to get blown out 35-10, and you pointed to poor quarterback play, I could jive with that. You?
yes. Totally agree. I'm saying though with Syracuse again, if you lose to Syracuse, it's a problem. You're concerned. It's an issue. It's a non-conference loss you shouldn't have had. It's that simple. It goes that far.
Okay.
And
Go ahead. Finish.
I don't think you just give up completely after that.
Hot or cold brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. There's our music bed. Glad we got that in there. So let me ask you this. What team on the schedule would you be hottest in terms of if Tennessee loses to them, Josh Heupel is not the guy?
Okay. Well, it would have. Okay, let me throw a few out.
ETSU, right?
Well, yes, ETSU. If they lose to ETSU, you fire Josh Heupel like the next day. Like you literally fire him the next day. Like how people think Jimmy Pruitt should have been fired right after the Georgia State game.
Okay, let me throw some more at you. Or if you want to, go ahead. Pick 3 if you'd like. Which ones are you so upset about the loss that you're red hot and you're looking to fire Josh Heupel?
All right, I'll give you one straight up. Oklahoma at home. Tennessee should beat Oklahoma at home.
Wow, that's a strong one. That's an SEC team.
Yes, but
with a lot to play for.
But they're playing at Neyland.
Okay, let's. I think Arkansas. I'm red hot.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
That should be a revenge game. I mean, we're going to be hot on New Mexico State and ETSU. But what about Mississippi State? What about Vanderbilt? What about Kentucky?
Okay, Vanderbilt. See, this is where I'm like 5. Vanderbilt, Kentucky. I'm red hot on Josh Heupel needs to be on the hot seat if he loses either of those games or he's not the guy. Mississippi State, yes. Arkansas, yes. Oklahoma, yes. Look, I told you this, and I'll say this again. See, Dave, I think Syracuse is the 4th toughest game on Tennessee's schedule this year.
Ouch. I just think there's a big delineation between SEC and ACC.
You're still on that whole SEC, ACC. Big conferences are dead. They don't matter anymore. Okay, it's not a thing. It's not really a thing.
I'm talking about recruiting the area.
Yes, but
being in the Southeast, you should have a significant talent advantage.
Yes, but then there's scheme and there's other things. I think Syracuse is a decent team. Would you take Kentucky's not better than Syracuse? Arkansas is not better than Syracuse. Vanderbilt's not better than Syracuse.
What do you think the line would be if Kentucky and Syracuse played at a neutral site? Kentucky would be favored.
Syracuse would be favored by 10. Syracuse would absolutely be favored by 10. 100%. Okay, we're talking about, let's just talk last year for a minute. Again, Syracuse went 10-3. They did beat, I want to point this out, they beat Miami. Now, you would agree that Miami, at least even though they're in the ACC, they are a SEC caliber team with all that South Florida talent, right?
Not really that team last year. They were pretty good, but
okay, put it this way. Miami beat Florida 41-17, and then Syracuse beat Miami. So again, Syracuse, I would say I'm not saying Syracuse is better than Florida. I think Florida is better than Syracuse. But if Syracuse could beat a team that beat Florida 41-17, you don't think Syracuse would be better than Arkansas, Kentucky, who are significantly worse than Syracuse than Florida?
David says 3-point line for Kentucky at home. I agree with David.
Okay, if you're on this,
Eric says, Caleb, chill out. You're getting a little too excited.
Dave, address my point. If you're on this tier thing from SEC versus ACC and you're still stuck in 2013, how did Syracuse beat a team that beat Florida 41-17?
Florida has detail-oriented Billy Napier as head coach.
Okay, but is Florida better or worse than Kentucky?
Well, Florida was so up and down last year. I think that's partly because
You are trying to be the politician. Florida's better than Kentucky. It's that Florida's better than Kentucky. They're leaps and bounds better than Kentucky.
Their roster is better than Kentucky.
Yes.
Their team's not any better.
No, but as a team, Florida's a better football team than Kentucky.